Jesus calms a storm, a cinematic Bible story. The day had been long and filled with crowds. From early morning, Jesus had been teaching by the Sea of Galilee. His words carried wisdom and power, and people from towns and villages had gathered, pressing in close, desperate to hear him. The air was heavy with expectation. For many, this teacher was unlike anyone they had ever heard. His parables stirred hearts, and his miracles lit fires of hope in the weary. As the sun dipped low in the horizon, painting the waters in shades of crimson and gold, Jesus turned to his disciples with a simple instruction: let us cross over to the other side. The disciples, many of them seasoned fishermen, were quick to obey. They untied their boat from the shore, the wood creaking softly as it rocked with the gentle waves. Jesus, exhausted from the day's teaching and healing, made his way to the stern of the boat, found a cushion, and quietly lay down. Within moments, he was asleep. The lake was calm at first. The waters of Galilee often looked like glass when night began to fall. Stars appeared in the heavens, twinkling against the deepening blue, and the disciples rowed with steady arms, the rhythmic splash of oars breaking the silence. Some whispered about the miracles they had seen. Others marveled at his parables, still trying to grasp their meaning. But then, without warning, the calmness shattered. A windstorm swept down on the lake. The Sea of Galilee was notorious for this. Storms could rise in an instant as cold air from the mountains collided with the warm air of the lake. The once gentle waters transformed into a wild, raging beast. Waves rose high, crashing against the wooden sides of the boat with violent force. The night sky was swallowed by thick, black clouds. Thunder roared. Lightning split the heavens. The disciples' hearts raced. They had weathered storms before, but this one was different. Fiercer, angrier, almost as if creation itself was in turmoil. The boat pitched violently, tossed about like a toy in the hands of the sea. Water poured in over the sides. Their garments clung heavy to their bodies as they fought to bail water with trembling hands. Fear gripped them, even the strongest among them. Men who had spent their lives on these waters felt the icy fingers of dread. They shouted instructions over the howling wind, but the storm drowned out their voices. Each crashing wave threatened to break the boat apart. And yet, through all the chaos, Jesus slept. There he was at the stern, his head resting peacefully on the cushion, untouched by the terror around him. While the disciples battled for their very lives, their master lay still, calm, and unshaken. It was almost unimaginable. Finally, panic overcame them. They stumbled toward him, their voices desperate, broken with fear. "Teacher, Master, don't you care that we are perishing?" The words were raw. Their hearts were on the edge of despair. At once Jesus stirred. Slowly, he rose to his feet, water dripping from his clothes as the boat lurched beneath him. His eyes open, not with fear, but with authority. The storm still raged. Lightning still cracked the sky. Waves still crashed over the sides. But in the presence of Jesus, there was a sense that something was about to change. He lifted his hand and spoke, not to the disciples, but to the wind and the sea itself. "Peace, be still." And instantly, like a servant obeying its master, the storm ceased. The wind vanished. The waves fell silent, smoothing into a glassy calm. The air cleared, the clouds dispersed, and the moonlight shone down, illuminating the quiet waters. In the blink of an eye, the chaos was replaced by stillness, so sudden and complete that it left the disciples breathless. The only sound was the gentle dripping of water from the sides of the boat. Jesus turned to his disciples, his voice steady, his gaze piercing. "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" The words cut deep, not as a rebuke to shame them, but as a call to trust. For had they not seen his power before? Had they not witnessed his miracles, his authority over sickness, his words that carried life? And yet, when faced with danger, their hearts had chosen fear over faith. The disciples stood in silence. Their fear of the storm had shifted. Now it was awe, a holy fear, directed at the one standing before them. They whispered among themselves, trembling, overwhelmed by what they had just seen. "Who is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" That night on the Sea of Galilee, they had witnessed more than a miracle. They had seen a glimpse of the one who held creation in his hands. The storm that had threatened their lives was no match for his command. And in the silence that followed, they realized this was no ordinary teacher. This was the Lord of wind and wave. The crossing of the lake continued in peace. The waters remained calm, the boat gliding gently under the starlit sky. But inside the hearts of disciples, a storm of questions, wonder, and revelation was just beginning.